Hi, friendly friends. It's Amy from Savor, Salvage, Scent, and I hope that you are having a beautiful day. Today, I'm excited to bring to you a collaboration with a friend. But first, I will say to those of you who are returning subscribers, thank you so much for staying in touch and joining me. And for those of you who are new, this channel, Savor Salvage Scent, mostly focuses on all things fragrance. So if you haven't subscribed, I hope you'll hit the red subscribe button so that we can stay in touch. I love exchange ideas, to be educated, etc. So please, please, please leave comments if you're so inclined. So today I am doing a first collaboration with a friend, and for those of you who aren't familiar, her name is Eloisa Montes de Oca, and she's wonderful. I will link her information, her channel below. I kind of found her content or channel because I was looking one day for information about a particular house, and she was one of the only people that I saw who had reviewed this house, and I just love her style. I immediately subscribed to her channel and now listen whenever she posts. And I think her content is so interesting because she often, I think, talks about or reviews, I think, houses and perfumes that go over under appreciated by other people sometimes. And she just has a beautiful spirit and joy about her in the way of presenting. And she's also very honest while doing that, which I think can be hard to balance. So she's just terrific. And so we talked about doing a collaboration today around a house that we both think is really underrated. And that's how I learned about her. I was looking for information about some Oscar de la Renta perfumes. And I had enjoyed some and was kind of building my collection, and she was literally the only person who had reviewed, I think, one or two that I was trying to learn more about. So we will both be posting videos today talking about our Oscar de la Renta perfumes. So first, I will just give a tiny bit of background. I find in the US that Oscar de la Renta has been somewhat, I would say, underappreciated. There were definitely times, I would say, in the 70s and 80s during my growing up that I heard the name, and I know people wore some perfumes. And then I just feel like in the last 10 years, just until about a couple years ago, I feel like I'm starting to hear that name again, but very little content. I'm not sure if something I saw online kind of suggested that the fashion company that I think has been growing strong for decades in some way lost their perfume license or something, and it was just regranted a few years ago. So I think there's a lot still coming back. I find this house to be incredibly affordable, unless, of course, the perfumes are out of production. And I think they're just such an incredible quality. I'll talk a little bit more about them later, but some of you might know his designs, his fashion designs. He, I think, passed away around, gosh, I hope I'm right, 2014, I want to say. Oh, did I write it down? And he lived to be about, I think, 82. He was Dominican by birth, and then the impression I got was he kind of came from an important, almost like what would be considered almost royal Dominican family. Went to study painting, I think, in Spain around when he was like 17 or 18. And then he got quickly known by fashion houses and people who were interested or working in fashion because of his incredible sketches. And that's how he kind of made his foray into that world. He ended up moving, I think, to New York next, but he worked for, he kind of apprenticed under Balenciaga, I think, at some point, and then worked for London. And then I think kicked off his own, I think, ready to wear somewhere around 1962 or 3, something like that. Some of you will know his designs because he dressed many first ladies. I mean, like, I think all the last first ladies until Melania, I'm pretty sure. So I think it was Reagan, Bush, Clinton, and just beautiful, striking. I'll put a link of his current designs, but I think classic while being really beautiful and colorful. So like, for instance, there's a coat out on the market right now that is this, I don't even know what color of blue to call it. It's not peacock, it's a little lighter, almost like between peacock and cornflower. But anyways, he just has these gorgeous pops of color. So I find the perfumes to be just as beautiful, striking, and they're so affordable and hardly anybody talks about them. So I think we're both excited to talk about them today. So I'm going to talk to you about 5 scents that are in my collection. And I would say there are some common threads. There were different noses creating these scents, and I think one of the most current scents, you can't even find out who the nose is, but I would say there are definitely some similarities or some threads running through the line, and I would say the house just seems masterful with florals. If you're not into florals, I know florals are obviously in a lot of perfumes, but if you're not into floral prominent perfumes, I would say this might not be a house for you. There are definitely a few perfumes that are not maybe prominent florals, but I would say for the most part, most of them are, while they might have other elements in them, like being oriental or being woody or, whatever. So that is a common thread. So I will talk to you about the 5 that I have today. I'm going to start with I'm going to go kind of like to the oldest release to the newest. The first one I have, and I think this was the first in my collection too. And my guess, I mean, who knows why I do the things I do sometimes, but I believe I got this frankly because I had seen it around a lot growing up. So this is called Velepte. This was released in 1992. And so just a couple years after I graduated high school. Look at that. This isn't, I don't think for everybody. I love it. I think it's beautiful. I love this gold color. Kind of hints at what's inside, which we'll talk about. This is super affordable. This is a 1 ounce bottle. I got it for $11 at a local discount store. You can find it shipped really cheaply too. So Volupte means, I believe in French, something like intense sensual pleasure. And, I think often it's used in the sensual or sexual kind of way, but I would say just as far as your senses, all of them, this is just a beauty to behold. The noses are Sophia Grossman and Nicholas Calderon. Sophia Grossman will be familiar probably to a lot of you. I'm going to read just a short list of things that she created among many, many others. But Geifer by Boucheron, or Boucheron by Geifer. Eternity by Calvin Klein. Calyx by Prescriptives. Estee Lauder's Beautiful, Tresor by Lancome, Vanderbilt, and YSL's Paris. So, and those are just a few. Like, she, I think, is really known to be a master of florals. Her partner in creating this scent was another nose named Nicholas Calderon. He has a shorter list of creations, but really important ones. So Liz Claiborne's perfume, and then the red Ralph Lauren, the red bottle that was really popular again as I was growing up in the 80s and 90s. So they both have created some powerhouses. I'm not going to read every note of these perfumes. Oscar de la Renta perfumes tend to have many, many, many notes. Especially the older ones, I would say, are very, very composed. There's many, many things. But I would say there's this juice kind of hints at it. A lot of yellow florals, like such as mimosa. Let's see. There's also a lot of white florals, but there's ylang-ylang, heliotrope, narcissus, lotus, so a lot of white and yellow florals. But mimosa is really, really prominent, and that's part of the reason I would guess this juice is this color. It also has in the base just FYI, sandalwood, amber, patchouli, incense, tuberose, and vanilla. So it's got this tuberose feel too. But I would say mimosa, definitely like a honeyed, beautiful honeyed floral, stands out most. And so I would say, if I had to quickly describe this scent, to me it's yellow florals, and it also has a little bit of melon ripeness. So I think it has like a undescribed melon, and I think it has watermelon in it too. I don't necessarily pull out those melons, but what they do is create more of a ripeness for me for the florals. So Velepte is just a gorgeous 90s perfume. I think underrated, not hardly ever talked about, and just beautiful. And as it dries down a few hours in, and this is to me most of, I think all of my Oscar de la Rentas, except for maybe one, last 6, 8, 10 hours. Like some of them really, really last. But this, when it softens, it just gets a little more honeyed than floral, but just beautiful Velepte. So that's the oldest one in my list. Let's see, the next one is Gold, which is this big bottle I'm going to show you. This can be found, so this was originally released in, look how big this bottle is. Not the size always matters, but come on, look at that. 2006 it was released. But I think just re-released recently, and just FYI, you can find this online right now. This is a 6.7 ounce bottle for $25 is what I paid. This is, I think, just purchased a few months ago. I don't know if you can see, a lot of the Oscar de la Renta perfumes are in this kind of interesting floral shaped bottle with this cool cap. And then on the cap, I don't know if you can see, it says Oscar de la Renta. So really, so beautiful. So this is Gold. Heck of a deal. It's just so beautiful. I think this is one of those where people won't, smell you coming and going, think that everybody else is wearing the same thing. It's beautiful. I am going to read a little bit about the notes here. They're not quite as extensive. So the top notes are rose, bergamot, mandarin. The mid notes are jasmine, orris root, orange blossom, and the base notes are vanilla and patchouli. So if I had to quickly describe this, I would call this a ripe oriental orange blossom and jasmine focused perfume. There are other things that you can pull out, for instance, the orris root, the iris lends a powderiness. That's another thing I would say about half of the Oscar de la Renta perfumes that I've smelled have a pretty strong powdery note. And so I would just say, I think that's part of the reason they aren't as popular. I find a lot of younger people do not like powdery scents. I love them, and I think my friend Eloisa does too. And so that's probably part of the reason we're both attracted to these. I'm a huge fan of orange blossom, so this scent really, really fits that need for me. But I would call it, I think a few of these Oscar de la Renta perfumes are really orange blossom dominant. But what's interesting about them, where a lot of orange blossom prominent perfumes are light and kind of for summer, and I think you could probably wear these scents in the summer too. These have like that oriental depth too, with things like, depending on the perfume, incense, orris root, tonka, vanilla, things like that really, or sandalwood, give it a depth. And so this I would call like a heavier orange flower. It's just so beautiful. So Oscar de la Renta's Gold, released in 2006, and very easy to find now for about $25 to $30 for almost a 7-ounce bottle. Incredible. Just beautiful for your nightstand too. So yes. Next on the list is, I think my favorite of my 5 that I own. This is Esprit de Oscar. Just gorgeous. This was released in 2011. However, when I smelled it, I was like, yeah, but it smells familiar. And it's because it was kind of a new interpretation on Oscar de la Renta's signature perfume that was released, I think, in the 70s. And so very, very similar. And that's why I think it smells old school to me. It still smells. This to me smells 70s or 80s in the best of ways, friends. So this was this runs about $25 for a 3.4 ounce bottle. Still super affordable. The noses are Frank Vocal. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. I'm not familiar with him. And Anne Gottlieb. So Mr. Vocal has produced things like Glacier's You, Laura Mercier's Ombre Passion, which is beautiful, and I'm going to talk about soon. Leila Lambo's Santal 33. As you all know, I'm sure that's a wildly popular trending perfume right now. And then Anne Gottlieb is interesting. I saw a program on television about, I think it was about the I think it was by the BBC, but I can't remember. It was about perfume making, and she was featured as somebody who was creating current scents, and it was interesting. Oh, I think the special, now that I think of it, was all about oud. And right now, or recently, she has been involved in big perfume market designed to do with like body spray. So like working for Axe and, you know, companies like that. But she's really brought some cool things to the market. She also did Calvin Klein's Secret Obsession and some for Marc Jacobs like Decadence. She also did one of my most beloved perfumes, which is Covet. And so did Frank Vocal, who co-designed this with her. So they both created Covet. So let me tell you a little bit about this one. I would say this is the most powdery by far of all my 5 scents. The top notes are citron, bergamot, Sicilian lemon. The heart notes are tuberose, orange blossom, jasmine. The base notes are vetiver, tonka, heliotrope, and musk. And I would say, if I had to describe this quickly to someone, it is a heliotrope, tonka, powder bomb. It is gorgeous. It is not, to me, the powder of the 30s, 40s, 50s. It is definitely like the 70s, 80s powders. It's so beautiful. It's got that floral, and to me, the heliotrope, which is this beautiful cluster of flower, and a lot of people call it cherry pie flower because it's got like a cherry almondy, flowery, like of baking flour, kind of powdery smell. And so that's what you get in this. And it is so gorgeous. Esprit de Oscar. It is, to me, a masterpiece. Just so incredibly beautiful. And it reminds me, since this is kind of a take on the original Oscar de la Renta that came out in the 70s, I really want to get a bottle of that. I don't own it right now. So, Esprit de Oscar. Next is something created in 2016, which is Blue Orchid. I believe this was created look at that bottle. Isn't that stunning? God, I love it. This was part of, I believe, a whole series of like different, I think like ambers and florals, and they were all in these real colorful bottles. So I think there was a rose one. I think there was a jasmine that was like a green bottle. There might have been an amber one. Anyways, they look like gems, don't they? I bought this just recently on Fragrance X, I believe, for $16.99. 3.4 ounce, friends, so really affordable. The top note, so this is interesting. It's called Blue Orchid, and I would say, I don't think the name, for me, I get it, but the top notes are mandarin, cranberries, and sea salt. The heart notes are lotus, sandback jasmine, and floating petals, whatever that smells like. And the base notes are driftwood, musk, and sandalwood. And I would say this is, very, very different from these others. It's similar in that it still has some florals, but this is the most aquatic by far. You all who, if anyone's returning here, you might know that I am not a huge fan of the genre of aquatic scents. I think a lot of them are done so cheaply, terribly. They're often screechy. I think a lot of designers interpret the smell of water as something that smells crazy clean, like laundry detergent, when in fact I think water can almost be funky sometimes. This is really cool. This is a beautifully done aquatic scent that also has, like, to me, what I get is, if I had to describe it quickly, watery lotus and a hint of wood. And so you've got this aquatic vibe, the lotus flower that has this kind of clean but not screechy to me scent, and a hint of like a woodiness. It is so beautiful, and this is one that I think would be terrific in the heat, but you could even wear in the slightly colder months. It's just beautiful. So why they call it blue orchid, I'm not sure. I do not get a major orchid scent from this, but our last scent I do. So we're going to talk about that next. So last but not least, look at this beautiful thing. Oscar's Blue Velvet. This you can find really cheaply. This was just released. This is a new one for me. Released in 2020, I think in like February or March, so very recently. You can find this again for about $16.99 online right now. This is, I would say, the darkest of these scents. Just so beautiful. I could not find a nose for this one, and there's a ton of notes listed. But I'm going to go through them quickly because this is one of those compositions where I can smell almost every one of the notes. It's wild. So the top notes are black currant, dewberry, lychee, red lotus, pear, and plum blossom. The mid notes are jasmine, magnolia, calla lily. I grow calla lilies and I don't remember what their scent is anyways. So middle notes, jasmine, magnolia, calla lily, orange flower, purple datura, which is one of my favorite things ever. And frankly, you can't get a scent in perfume from a purple datura, so it must be a note created to smell like it. And the base notes are white amber, black orchid, blue iris, tonka, vanilla, and patchouli. This to me is like a modern oriental floral. You can smell so many of these things listed. The black currant, I can smell the pear and plum. I can smell jasmine. I can smell orange flower in a big way. And I can smell orchid in a major way. And then you get a lot of the base, which is tonka. You get a little patchouli, but it's not a patchouli bomb for those of you who are scared of patchouli. So this to me is like a really deep oriental floral. And you get a lot of, for me, the orchid, the orange blossom. It is gorgeous. And I think the word blue velvet works for this. It feels deep, plush, beautiful, sensual, just gorgeous. So can't say enough great things about Oscar de la Renta. I would love to know from you, do any of you wear his designs? Do any of you own or wear any of his perfumes? I know that there's a modern perfume, I think it's called Bella Rosa, that a lot of people talk about. It's like one of the only ones I feel like people talk about, and I think it's because people think it's a Delina by Marley dupe, but I love the house's designs for what they are, not for what they smell like. So I would love to hear from you as far as if you wear any of the other scents, what you think of them, what scents you might want to acquire, or for instance, what I might be overlooking. I would love to hear from you if you think there's an Oscar de la Renta I haven't talked about that I really need to own. So thanks so much. I hope that you enjoyed this. I hope that you'll visit Eloisa's channel, which is excellent. I can't wait to hear what she has to say about him, and talk soon. Cheers. Bye-bye.